James Harrison sat in his big office on the top floor of his company building. He looked out the window at the busy city below. Cars moved like tiny ants on the streets. People walked fast on the sidewalks. Everyone seemed to have somewhere important to go, but James felt lost. 6 months ago, his wife Sarah died in a car crash. One day she was there, laughing and making breakfast for their 2 children. The next day she was gone forever. James still could not believe it. Sometimes he would wake up in the morning and forget for a moment. He would reach across the bed, expecting to find her there. But the bed was always cold and empty. Emma was 8 years old and David was 6. They were good kids, but they missed their mother very much. Emma used to be a happy girl who loved to dance around the house. Now she was quiet most of the time. She would sit in her room and look at old photos of her mother. David was even worse. He cried every night and asked when Mommy was coming home. James did not know what to tell him. James tried his best to take care of his children, but he was not good at it. He could run a big company with hundreds of workers. He could make millions of dollars. But he could not braid Emma's hair the way Sarah used to do it. He could not make David's favorite pancakes that were shaped like animals. He burned everything he tried to cook. He forgot to pack lunch for school. He was late picking them up almost every day. The children needed someone who could take care of them properly. James needed help, but he did not want to admit it. He was used to doing everything by himself. Sarah always said he was too proud to ask for help. She was right, as usual. One day, James was 2 hours late picking up the children from school. Emma and David sat alone in the office while all the other kids went home. The teacher looked angry when James finally arrived. Emma's eyes were red from crying. David would not look at his father. That night, James made a decision. He needed to find someone to help take care of his children. James asked his secretary to find the best childcare agency in the city. He wanted someone perfect, someone who could cook and clean and help with homework, someone who could make his children smile again. The agency sent him many resumes. Some women had college degrees. Others had worked for rich families before. But none of them felt right to James. Then the agency called about Maria Santos. She was 35 years old and came from El Salvador. She had worked as a nanny for 3 years, but her English was not perfect. The agency was not sure if James would want her. She did not have a college degree. She had never worked for a millionaire before. But something about her made the agency think she was special. James met Maria on a Tuesday morning. She was a small woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. She wore a simple blue dress and carried an old purse. When she shook hands with James, her hands were rough from hard work. She spoke slowly and carefully, trying to find the right English words. "I am very good with children," Maria said in her soft voice. "I have son too. He is 9 years old. I understand when children are sad." "I can help?" James asked her many questions. Maria answered them all honestly. She told him she sent most of her money to her family back home. Her mother was sick and needed medicine. Her son lived with her mother because Maria had to work. She had not seen him in 2 years. When she talked about her son, her eyes filled with tears, but she did not cry. "Why do you want this job?" James asked. Maria thought for a moment. "Children need love when they are hurt. Your children, they are hurt inside. I can help heal their hearts. I know about hurt hearts." Something in her voice made James believe her. Maybe it was because she understood pain. Maybe it was because she missed her own child. James decided to give her a chance. The next day, Maria moved into the guest room in James's big house. The house had 15 rooms, but it felt empty and cold. Maria brought only one small suitcase with her clothes. She also brought a photo of a young boy with her same kind eyes. That was Carlos. Her son. Emma and David were shy when they first met Maria. They hid behind their father and would not talk to her. Maria did not try to force them to like her. Instead, she went to the kitchen and started making dinner. Soon, wonderful smells filled the house. It smelled like home again. At dinner, Maria served rice and beans and chicken cooked with special spices. Emma took a small bite and her eyes got big. "This is really good," she said. It was the first time James had heard her say anything positive. In months, David ate 3 plates of food. He had not eaten that much since his mother died. After dinner, Maria asked if the children wanted to hear a story. Emma and David looked at their father. James nodded. Maria told them a story about a brave princess who helped animals in the forest. She used different voices for all the characters. Emma giggled when Maria made funny sounds for the forest animals. David clapped his hands when the princess saved a baby bird. That night, for the first time in months, both children went to sleep without crying. James watched Maria work over the next few days. She woke up early every morning to make breakfast. She made sure the children brushed their teeth and combed their hair. She packed their lunches with little notes that said things like, "Have a good day and you are special." She helped Emma with her math homework and taught David how to tie his shoes, but Maria did more than just take care of the children's needs. She seemed to understand their hearts. When Emma missed her mother, Maria would sit with her and let her talk about Sarah. When David had bad dreams, Maria would sing soft songs in Spanish until he fell back asleep. She never tried to replace their mother. Instead, she helped them remember the good times they had with Sarah. James was amazed by how much his children changed in just 2 weeks. Emma started singing again while she got ready for school. David stopped crying at night. They both talked more and smiled more. The house felt alive again. James felt grateful to Maria, but he also felt guilty. While his children were getting better, he was still lost in his sadness. He worked longer hours to avoid coming home. He did not want to face the memories of Sarah that lived in every room of the house. It was easier to stay at the office where everything was about business and money. Maria never complained about James being gone so much. She just took care of Emma and David like they were her own children. She cooked their favorite meals and helped them with school projects. She took them to the park and taught them games from her country. The children started to call her Miss Maria and then just Maria. But late at night, when James finally came home, he sometimes heard Maria talking on the phone in Spanish. Her voice sounded sad and worried. He wondered who she was talking to, but he never asked. Maria had her own life and her own problems. As long as she took good care of his children, that was all that mattered to James' daughter, so he thought. 3 months passed since Maria came to work for James. The house felt different now. It was not just quiet and sad anymore. There were sounds of children laughing and playing. Emma and David seemed happy most of the time. But James started to notice strange things. One morning, James came down for breakfast and heard Emma singing in the kitchen. But she was not singing in English. The words sounded like Spanish. When James walked into the kitchen, Emma stopped singing right away. Her face turned red like she had done something wrong. "What song was that?" James asked. Emma looked down at her cereal bowl. "Just a song Maria taught me," she said quietly. James felt uncomfortable, but he did not know why. Maria was teaching his daughter songs in Spanish. Was that wrong? He was not sure, but something about it bothered him. A few days later, James found David in his room talking to his toy cars. But David was not speaking English either. He was saying words that sounded like Spanish. When David saw his father, he quickly switched back to English. "What were you saying to your cars?" James asked. David's eyes got big like he was scared. "Nothing, Daddy, just playing." James sat on David's bed. "You can tell me. I won't be mad." David looked at the door to make sure Maria was not listening. Then he whispered, "Maria taught me how to say 'go fast' and 'be careful' in Spanish. The cars like it when I talk to them in different words." James tried to smile, but he felt worried. Why was Maria teaching his children Spanish? And why did the children act like it was a secret? At dinner that night, James paid more attention to what his children were saying. Emma asked Maria to pass the salt, but she said it in Spanish. Maria answered in Spanish too. Then they both looked at James like they forgot he was there. "What did you just say?" James asked Emma. Emma looked nervous. "I just asked for the salt." "Daddy, in Spanish," James said. "Maria is teaching us," David said. "She says it's good to know 2 languages. James looked at Maria. She smiled, but her smile looked forced. "It is good for children to learn," she said. "Makes their brains stronger." James nodded, but he did not feel good about it. Were his children becoming more comfortable with Maria than with him? Were they creating a world where he could not understand what they were saying? The next week, James had to go to a school event. For Emma, it was a small play where all the second-grade students performed songs. James sat in the back of the classroom with other parents. He watched Emma on the small stage. She looked beautiful in her white dress, but when Emma started singing with her class, James felt his heart sink. Emma was not just singing the English words like the other children. She was also moving her hands in special ways and adding extra sounds that were not part of the song. It looked like she was mixing the English song with something else. After the play, Emma's teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, came to talk to James. "Emma is doing so well this year," she said. "She seems much happier than she was a few months ago." "Yes. We hired someone to help take care of the children," James said. "That's wonderful." Emma told me that Maria teaches her songs from El Salvador. Emma loves to share them with the class. The other children think it's very cool that Emma knows songs in Spanish. James felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Emma was sharing Maria's songs with her class, but she had never shared them with him. His own daughter felt more comfortable sharing parts of her life with strangers than with her father. Has Emma talked about her mother lately? James asked. Mrs. Rodriguez looked sad. Not much, but she talks about Maria a lot. She calls her Mama Maria sometimes. I hope that's okay. James felt sick. Mama Maria? Oh, maybe I should not have said that. Emma probably does not want you to know. Children sometimes have special names for people they love. James left the school feeling angry and confused. Mama Maria? His children were calling Maria Mama? That was Sarah's name. That was what Emma and David called their real mother. How could Maria let them call her that? When James got home, he heard laughter coming from the living room. He walked quietly to the doorway and looked inside. Maria was sitting on the floor with Emma and David. They were looking at a photo album, but it was not one of James's photo albums. It was a small album that Maria must have brought with her. "This is my house in El Salvador," Maria was saying in English. She pointed to a picture. "And this is my son, Carlos. He is 9 years old, like I told you." Emma looked at the photo carefully. "He looks nice. Why doesn't he live with you?" Maria's face looked sad. "I have to work far from home to make money. Carlos lives with my mother, his grandmother. I miss him very much." David moved closer to Maria. "Do you think Carlos would like to play with us?" Maria hugged David. "I think he would love to play with you. You are both such good children. You remind me of him." James felt angry watching this scene. Maria was sharing her family with his children, but she had never told him about her son. She was showing them pictures and talking about her life. Meanwhile, James felt like a stranger in his own house. That night, after Maria put the children to bed, James waited for her in the kitchen. When she came downstairs, she looked surprised to see him there. "Mr. Harrison, you are home early tonight," she said. "I wanted to talk to you," James said. He tried to keep his voice calm, but he felt angry inside. Maria sat down at the kitchen table. She looked worried. "The children are learning a lot of Spanish," James said. "Yes, it is good for them. Children learn languages very easy when they are young." Emma's teacher said the children call you Mama Maria. Maria's face went pale. I'm sorry, Mr. Harrison. I told them to call me just Maria. But sometimes they say Mama Maria. I did not want to make them sad by telling them no." "Their mother's name was Mama. Sarah was their mama," James said. His voice was getting louder. "I know," Maria said quietly. "I would never try to replace their mother. Never. I just try to give them love when they are sad." James stared at Maria. Part of him knew she was telling the truth, but another part of him felt like she was taking his children away from him and away from Sarah's memory. "I don't want them calling you Mama anything," James said. Maria nodded. "I understand. I will tell them tomorrow." James went to his room that night feeling more alone than ever. His children were happy, but they seemed to be happy because of Maria, not because of him. They were learning her language and her songs. They looked at pictures of her family. They called her Mama. James lay in bed thinking about Sarah. What would she think about all this? Would she be happy that the children were smiling again? Or would she be hurt that another woman was filling the empty space she left behind? James did not sleep well that night. He had strange dreams about his children speaking a language he could not understand. In his dreams, Emma and David were far away, calling for Mama Maria instead of calling for him. When James woke up the next morning, he made a decision. He needed to know more about Maria Santos. He needed to understand what she was really doing with his children. And he needed to know why he felt like a stranger in his own family. Something was happening in his house, and James was going to find out what it was. James could not stop thinking about what he had learned. His children were calling Maria, Mama Maria. They were learning her language and her songs. They seemed to have a whole life with her that he knew nothing about. The more James thought about it, the more worried he became. James started watching Maria more carefully. He noticed that she got phone calls almost every night. She would talk quietly in Spanish, and her voice always sounded sad. Sometimes she would cry after these phone calls. James wondered who she was talking to and why it made her so upset. One Thursday morning, James pretended to leave for work as usual. But instead of going to his office, he parked his car down the street and watched his house. He felt silly doing this, but he needed to know what Maria did when he was not home. At 9 o'clock, Maria came out of the house with Emma and David. They were carrying backpacks and looked like they were going somewhere special. James followed them in his car, staying far behind so they would not see him. Maria took the children to the bus stop. This was strange because James always gave Maria money for taxi rides when she needed to go places with the children. Why was she taking them on the bus? James parked his car and walked closer to the bus stop. He hid behind a large tree so Maria would not see him. He watched as Maria helped Emma and David get onto the bus. She looked nervous and kept checking her watch. James quickly got back in his car and followed the bus. It was difficult to follow a bus in city traffic, but James managed to stay close. The bus went through many neighborhoods that James had never seen before. These areas were not like the rich neighborhood where James lived. The houses were smaller and older. Many signs were in Spanish. After 30 minutes, the bus stopped in a neighborhood that looked very poor. James watched as Maria got off the bus with Emma and David. She held their hands tightly and looked around carefully. This was clearly not a safe area for children. James parked his car and followed them on foot. He stayed far behind, hiding behind cars and buildings. Maria walked quickly down several streets with the children. Emma and David did not look scared. They seemed to know where they were going. Finally, Maria stopped in front of a small, old apartment building. The building looked like it needed repairs. Some windows were broken. The front door was hanging crooked. James could not believe Maria had brought his children to a place like this. Maria took a key from her purse and opened the front door. She took Emma and David inside the building. James waited a few minutes, then walked closer to the building. He found a window on the side where he could see inside. What James saw made his heart stop. Inside the small apartment, there was an old woman lying in bed. She looked very sick and weak. Maria was kneeling beside the bed, holding the old woman's hand. Emma and David were standing next to Maria, looking at the old woman with worried faces. Then James saw something that shocked him even more. A boy about Emma's age came running into the room. He had the same kind eyes as Maria. The boy ran straight to Maria and hugged her tightly. Maria started crying and hugged him back. "Mama," the boy said in Spanish, "I missed you so much." James realized this must be Carlos, Maria's son, the boy she had not seen in 2 years, the boy from the photos she had shown. Emma and David. James watched through the window as Maria introduced Carlos to Emma and David. At first, Carlos was shy, but soon all 3 children were playing together. Emma took toys from her backpack and shared them with Carlos. David showed Carlos how to play with his toy cars. They could not speak the same language very well, but they were having fun together. Maria went to the old woman in the bed, who James now understood was Maria's mother. Maria's mother looked very sick. Her skin was gray, and she could barely lift her head. Maria gave her mother some medicine and helped her drink water. James watched as Maria opened a small envelope and counted out money. She gave most of the money to her mother, keeping only a little bit for herself. James realized this was probably the salary he paid Maria. She was giving almost all of it to her sick mother. Then Maria opened her purse and took out a small gift wrapped in newspaper. She gave it to Carlos. When Carlos opened it, his face lit up with joy. It was a small toy car, probably bought with the few dollars Maria had kept for herself. James felt his heart breaking as he watched this scene. Maria was bringing his children to visit her own family because she missed them so much. She was sharing her son with Emma and David because she could not be with Carlos herself. She was giving away almost all her money to take care of her sick mother, but what broke James's heart the most was seeing how happy Emma and David looked. They were playing with Carlos like he was their brother. They were gentle with Maria's mother, bringing her water and holding her hand. They were part of Maria's family now, and Maria's family was part of theirs. James realized that Maria was not trying to steal his children. She was trying to give them something he could not give them. A feeling of family, of belonging, of love that was bigger than just one person. As James watched, he saw David climb onto the bed next to Maria's mother. The old woman smiled and touched David's hair gently. David started talking to her in his broken Spanish, and she answered him in English that was just as broken. They were both trying so hard to understand each other, and somehow they did. Emma sat on the floor with Carlos, teaching him an English song while he taught her a Spanish one. Maria watched them with tears in her eyes. She looked so proud and so sad at the same time. Then James saw something that made him understand everything. Maria's mother said something to Maria in Spanish. Maria shook her head and looked worried. The old woman pointed to Emma and David and said something else. Maria started crying harder. James could not understand the words, but he could see what was happening. Maria's mother was very sick, maybe dying. Maria was torn between taking care of her own family and taking care of James's family. She was trying to be in two places at once, trying to be a mother to 4 children and a daughter to her sick mother. James watched as Maria looked at her watch and realized it was time to go. She hugged Carlos tightly and whispered something in his ear. Carlos started crying and did not want to let go of his mother. Emma and David hugged Carlos too, like they were saying goodbye to their own brother. Maria kissed her mother's forehead and promised to come back soon. The old woman nodded weakly. Maria gathered up Emma and David, and they all walked toward the door. James quickly ran back to his car. He drove fast to get home before Maria and the children returned on the bus. He made it back to his house just in time. A few minutes later, he heard the front door open. "We're home!" Emma called out. James came downstairs, pretending he had just gotten home from work. Emma and David ran to hug him. They smelled like the old apartment, but they looked happy. "Did you have a good day with Maria?" James asked. Emma and David looked at each other, then at Maria. They seemed to be deciding whether to tell him something. "We went to visit Maria's family," David said finally. James looked at Maria. Her face was red, and she looked scared. "We met Carlos," Emma said excitedly. "He's Maria's son. He's really nice, and he taught us Spanish songs." "And we met Maria's mama," David added. "She's sick, but she's very nice. She told us we were beautiful children." James felt his heart breaking all over again. His children were so innocent. They had no idea that Maria was not supposed to take them to visit her family. They just saw it as a fun adventure, a chance to make new friends. Maria looked at James with frightened eyes. "Mr. Harrison, I can explain." James held up his hand. "We'll talk later," he said quietly. That night, after the children went to bed, James knew he had to make a decision. He had discovered Maria's secret, but now he was not sure what to do about it. Everything he thought he knew about Maria was wrong. She was not trying to steal his children. She was trying to love them while dealing with her own broken heart. James sat in his office, thinking about what he had seen. He thought about Carlos, who missed his mother. He thought about Maria's sick mother, who needed help. He thought about Maria, who was trying to take care of everyone and was slowly breaking under the weight of it all. Most of all, James thought about Emma and David. They were happier than they had been in months. They had found a new family in Maria's family. They were learning about love and caring and sharing. James realized that Maria had given his children something he had forgotten how to give them: joy. While he was lost in his own sadness, Maria was showing Emma and David how to find happiness again, but James also felt hurt and angry. Maria had broken his trust. She had taken his children to a place he did not know about. She had kept secrets from him. As James sat alone in his big house, he wondered what Sarah would want him to do. Would she want him to fire Maria for breaking the rules? Or would she want him to help this woman who was sacrificing everything to take care of his children? James did not know the answer. All he knew was that tomorrow he would have to decide what kind of man he wanted to be. James could not sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the scene from the apartment. He saw Maria's sick mother in that old bed. He saw Carlos hugging Maria like he never wanted to let her go. He saw Emma and David playing with Carlos like they were all family, but what bothered James the most was the look on Maria's face. She had looked so tired and sad. She was trying to take care of everyone, but she was falling apart inside. James had been so focused on his own pain that he had not noticed Maria's pain. The next morning was Saturday. James usually slept late on weekends, but he woke up early. He went downstairs and found Maria in the kitchen making breakfast. She looked like she had not slept either. Her eyes were red and swollen. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison," Maria said quietly. She would not look at him. "Good morning, Maria. Can we talk?" Maria nodded. She looked scared, like she was waiting for James to tell her she was fired. "The children are still sleeping," James said. "Let's sit down." They sat at the kitchen table. Maria kept her hands folded in her lap and stared at the table. James did not know how to start the conversation. "Maria, I know you took the children to visit your family yesterday." Maria's head snapped up. "How did you—" "I followed you," James said. "I'm sorry. I was worried about what you were doing with my children." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I am so sorry, Mr. Harrison. I know I should not have taken them there. I know you will fire me. I will pack my things and leave today." "Wait," James said. "I'm not firing you. I want to understand what's happening." Maria looked surprised. You are not angry? I'm confused," James said. "Tell me about your family. Tell me about Carlos." Maria took a deep breath. "Carlos is my son. He is 9 years old. He lives with my mother in El Salvador because I cannot take care of him here. I have not seen him in 2 years, but I saw Carlos yesterday. He was in that apartment." Maria started crying. "My mother is very sick. She has cancer. The doctors in El Salvador said she will die soon. I brought her here 2 months ago so she can get better medicine. Carlos came with her." James felt his heart sink. "Maria, why didn't you tell me?" "I was scared you would fire me. I need this job to pay for my mother's medicine. It costs so much money. I give you good work. I take care of Emma and David. I did not want to bother you with my problems." James thought about what he had seen. Maria giving most of her salary to her mother. Maria buying Carlos a small toy with the few dollars she had left. "Where are they staying?" James asked. "In a small apartment in the poor part of the city. It is not nice, but it is all I can afford. My mother sleeps in the only bedroom. Carlos sleeps on the couch. There is no money for a better place." James felt sick. While he lived in his big house with 15 rooms, Maria's sick mother was dying in a tiny apartment in the worst part of the city. "How often do you visit them?" "Every Saturday when you do not need me. Sometimes I take Emma and David because I miss Carlos so much. I want him to have friends. I want him to know what it is like to have a family." James understood now. Maria was not trying to steal his children. She was trying to give her own son the family experience he was missing. She was trying to let Carlos feel normal for 1 day a week. What did Emma and David think about meeting Carlos? Maria smiled a little bit. They loved him. They played together like real brothers and sister. Emma shared her toys with him. David taught him how to play with cars. They asked if Carlos could come play at our house. What did you tell them? I told them Carlos had to stay with his grandmother. I did not want to tell them that I cannot bring him to your house because you do not know about him. James felt ashamed. His children wanted to help Carlos, but Maria had to keep it a secret because James had never bothered to really know about Maria's life. Tell me about your mother, James said. Maria's face crumpled. She is dying, Mr. Harrison. The doctors say maybe 3 months, maybe 6 months. I brought her here because the medicine is better, but it is so expensive. I spend all my money on her medicine and the apartment rent. I have nothing left. What about Carlos? Who takes care of him? I try to see him every Saturday. But he is alone most of the time. He does not go to school because we have no money for school clothes or supplies. He sits in that apartment with my mother all day. He has no friends, no toys, no normal life. James felt like the worst person in the world. While he had been worried about Maria teaching his children Spanish songs, Maria had been watching her mother die and her son grow up without a real childhood. Maria, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Are you taking good care of Emma and David? Maria looked directly at James for the first time. Yes, Mr. Harrison, I love them like they are my own children. I would never let anything bad happen to them. When I take them to visit my family, I watch them every second. I know that neighborhood is dangerous, but I only take them to my mother's apartment and back to the bus. Why do they call you Mama? Maria? Maria's face turned red. I told them not to. I told them to call me just Maria, but sometimes when they are sad or scared, they call me Mama Maria. I think it makes them feel safe. I never told them to call me that. I would never try to replace their real mother. James believed her. He could see in Maria's eyes that she was telling the truth. Do Emma and David know about their mother? Do they remember Sarah? Yes, of course, I tell them stories about their mother. I help them remember her. I tell them their mother is watching them from heaven and she is proud of them. I would never want them to forget their real mother. James felt tears in his own eyes. Maria was not trying to replace Sarah. She was trying to help Emma and David heal from losing Sarah. Maria, I saw you giving money to your mother yesterday. Was that your salary? Maria nodded. I keep only a little bit for bus fare and sometimes a small gift for Carlos. Everything else goes to my mother's medicine and rent. What do you eat? Where do you get clothes? I eat here with the children. You give me a place to live. I do not need much. I have 2 dresses, and they are enough. James realized that Maria was living like a servant, not like a person. She was sacrificing everything for her family and for his family. Maria, I want to help you. Maria looked shocked. Help me? But I broke your trust. I took your children somewhere without telling you. You took my children to meet your family because you love them and you wanted them to know love. You were trying to give Carlos what Emma and David have. You were trying to give everyone a family? Maria started crying harder. I am so sorry, Mr. Harrison. I did not know what else to do. I miss my son so much. I miss my mother. But I also love Emma and David. I want everyone to be happy, but I do not know how to make everyone happy. James reached across the table and took Maria's hands. Maria, you have made my children happier than they have been since their mother died. You have given them love and care and joy. You have helped them remember how to smile, but I kept secrets from you. You kept secrets because you were afraid? You were afraid I would not understand? You were afraid I would fire you? You were afraid your mother would die without medicine, Maria nodded. Yes, I was so scared. You don't have to be scared anymore, James said. I want to help you take care of your mother. I want to help Carlos have a better life. I want to help you stop carrying all this weight by yourself. Maria looked at James like she could not believe what she was hearing. You would do that? Even though I broke your trust? You didn't break my trust, Maria. You showed me what real love looks like. You showed me that sometimes love means making sacrifices. You showed me that family is not just about blood. It's about people who care for each other. James stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at his big yard where Emma and David used to play with Sarah. Now he imagined Carlos playing there too. Maria, I want to ask you something. Would you like Carlos to come live here with us? Maria's mouth fell open. Here? In your house? This house is too big for just the three of us. There's plenty of room for Carlos. He could have his own bedroom. He could go to school with Emma and David. He could have the childhood he deserves. Maria started crying so hard she could not speak. She put her face in her hands and sobbed. And your mother, James continued. She needs better care than she can get in that apartment. There are good hospitals here with the best doctors. Money is not a problem. I want to help her get well. Maria looked up at James with tears streaming down her face. Why would you do this for us? We are not your family. James thought about what he had seen the day before. He thought about Emma and David playing with Carlos. He thought about Maria's mother touching David's hair with such gentleness. He thought about Maria giving away everything she had to take care of the people she loved. You are our family. Maria, you became our family the day you started taking care of Emma and David. You became our family when you helped my children learn how to be happy again. Maria stood up and hugged James. It was the first time she had ever hugged him, and James realized how much he had needed that hug. Thank you, Maria whispered. Thank you for seeing my heart, James hugged her back. Thank you for saving my children. Thank you for showing me what it means to really love someone. That Saturday morning changed everything for James and his family. When Emma and David came down for breakfast, James told them that Carlos and Maria's mother would be coming to live with them. The children were so excited they could barely eat. They're pancakes. Really, Daddy? Emma asked. Carlos can live here forever? Yes, sweetheart. He can have the bedroom next to yours. You can play together every day after school. David clapped his hands. Can we teach him to play baseball? Can we show him our toys? Of course, James said. And he can teach you more Spanish songs. Maria sat at the table with tears in her eyes. She still could not believe that James was willing to help her family. She had been so scared that morning, thinking she would lose her job and have to leave Emma and David. Instead, she was getting something she had never dreamed of, a real home for her son and her mother. The next week was very busy. James used his money and connections to get Maria's mother into the best hospital in the city. The doctors there were much more hopeful than the doctors in the poor clinic where Maria had been taking her mother. With the right treatment, your mother could live for several more years, the doctor told Maria. The cancer is serious, but it's not too late to fight it. Maria cried when she heard this news. She had thought her mother would die in a few months. Now there was hope. James also enrolled Carlos in the same private school that Emma and David attended. He bought Carlos new clothes and school supplies. He set up a beautiful bedroom for the boy with a real bed, a desk for homework, and shelves for books and toys. When Carlos first saw his new room, he stood in the doorway with his mouth open. He had never had his own room before. He had never had his own bed. He touched everything carefully, like he was afraid it might disappear. This is really mine? Carlos asked Maria in Spanish. Yes, mío, Maria said, using the loving nickname she called him. This is your home now. Carlos hugged his mother tightly. I don't have to go back to the apartment? No, you never have to go back there. You can stay here with me and with Emma. And David. James watched this scene and felt his heart fill with happiness. He had forgotten how good it felt to make someone else happy. For months, he had been so focused on his own sadness that he had stopped thinking about what he could do for other people. Emma and David helped Carlos learn his way around the house. They showed him the big backyard where they could play. They showed him the game room with the ping-pong table and video games. They showed him the kitchen where Maria made delicious food every day. And this is Daddy's office, Emma said, pointing to James's study. He works in there sometimes, but he's not scary. He's really nice. Carlos looked at James shyly. Thank you for letting me live here, Mr. Harrison. James knelt down to Carlos's level. You can call me James, and you don't have to thank me. I'm happy you're here." Carlos smiled. It was the first real smile James had seen from the boy. Maria's mother, whose name was Rosa, came to live with them after 2 weeks in the hospital. The doctors had started her on new medicine that made her feel stronger. James had a hospital bed set up in the guest room downstairs, so Rosa would not have to climb stairs. Rosa was a kind woman who spoke very little English, but she had a gentle way with children. She would sit in the living room in her wheelchair and watch Emma, David, and Carlos play. Sometimes she would tell them stories in Spanish, and Maria would translate. "Your grandmother is telling you about the time she caught a fish this big," Maria would say, spreading her arms wide. The children would laugh and ask Rosa to tell them more stories. James found himself looking forward to coming home from work. Every day, the house was full of life and laughter. There were always children running around, always someone cooking something delicious in the kitchen, always conversations happening in both English and Spanish. One evening, James came home to find Emma teaching Carlos how to read English words. David was sitting next to Rosa, showing her his drawing of their family. In the picture there were 6 people: James, Emma, David, Maria, Carlos, and Rosa. They were all holding hands and smiling. "Look, Daddy," David said. "I drew our family," James looked at the picture and felt tears in his eyes. David had drawn them as a real family, all together, all equal. There was no separation between the Harrison family and the Santos family. They were just one big family. "It's beautiful," James said. "Can we put it on the refrigerator?" David nodded happily. James hung the picture on the refrigerator, right next to the photos of Sarah that had been there for months. As the weeks passed, James noticed changes in himself. He was not working as late as he used to. He wanted to come home for dinner with his family. He wanted to help Emma with her homework. He wanted to play catch with David and Carlos in the backyard. One Saturday, James suggested that they all go to the park together. It was a beautiful day, and James thought the children would like to play on the swings and slides. At the park, James pushed Carlos on the swing while Maria pushed Emma and David. Rosa sat on a bench, watching them with a smile on her face. Other families at the park looked at them curiously. They probably wondered who all these people were and how they were related. James did not care what other people thought. He was happy. For the first time since Sarah died, he felt like he was part of a real family again. "Higher, James," Carlos called out in English. His English was getting better every day. "Are you sure?" James asked. "You're pretty high already." "I'm not scared," Carlos said. "I trust you." Those words hit James like a punch in the chest. Carlos trusted him. This little boy who had lived in poverty, who had been separated from his mother for 2 years, who had been afraid and alone, now trusted James completely. James realized that Carlos was not the only one who had learned to trust. James had learned to trust Maria completely. He had learned to trust that she would take care of his children. He had learned to trust that she would never try to replace Sarah's memory. He had learned to trust that love could grow in unexpected ways. That night, after all the children were asleep, James and Maria sat on the back porch drinking coffee. Rosa was in her room, talking on the phone with relatives in El Salvador, telling them about her new life in America. "Maria, I want to ask you something," James said. "Yes, Mr. Harrison. Will you please call me James? We're family now." Maria smiled. "Okay, James, what did you want to ask me?" "Do you think Sarah would be happy about how things turned out?" Maria thought for a moment. "I think she would be very happy. She would be happy that Emma and David are laughing again. She would be happy that you are smiling again. She would be happy that this house is full of love." James nodded. "I think you're right. Sarah always said that love grows when you share it. She would like that we're sharing our love with your family." "James, can I ask you something?" "Of course. Are you happy?" "Really happy?" James looked through the window at the house. He could see Emma's drawings on the refrigerator. He could see Carlos's backpack by the door, ready for school on Monday. He could see Rosa's medicine on the counter, keeping her healthy. He could see Maria's family photos on the bookshelf, next to his own family photos. "Yes, Maria, I'm really Happier than I thought I could be after Sarah died. 6 months later, James was getting ready for Emma's 9th birthday party. The house was decorated with balloons and streamers. Maria had made a beautiful cake with pink frosting and flowers. Rosa had taught Emma a special birthday song in Spanish. The party was not just for Emma, it was a celebration of their whole family. James had invited some of Emma's friends from school, but the real guests were the people who lived in the house: Maria, Carlos, and Rosa. James watched as Emma opened her presents. She got books and toys and clothes. But her favorite present was from Carlos, a small bracelet he had made for her in art class at school. "It has our initials," Carlos explained in English. "E for Emma, C for Carlos, and D for David, so we will always be together." Emma hugged Carlos tightly. "I love it. I'll never take it off." David got jealous and asked if Carlos had made something for him too. Carlos smiled and gave David a small wooden car he had painted. "I made this for you because you taught me how to play with cars," Carlos said. James felt his heart swell with pride. These children had learned to love each other like real brothers and sisters. They had learned to share and care for each other. They had learned that family is not just about having the same parents, but about choosing to love each other every day. After the party, when all the guests had gone home, James found Maria in the kitchen cleaning up. "Thank you for making this such a wonderful day," James said. "Thank you for giving us a home," Maria replied. James helped Maria wash the dishes. As they worked together, James thought about how much his life had changed. A year ago, he had been a lonely, angry man who worked all the time and barely knew his own children. Now he was part of a big, loving family. He knew what Emma was learning in school. He knew what made David laugh. He knew what scared Carlos and what made him brave. "Maria," James said, "I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "The day I followed you to your mother's apartment, I thought I was going to discover something terrible. I thought you were doing something wrong with my children." Maria stopped washing dishes and looked at James.